Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, I'm going to try to shoot this in close-up so you can see exactly what's happening here. This is a Marx E unit, and as you see, it has 3 wires coming out of it. These 2 go to the coil, this one goes to the brushes. Now I've got this wired to power just so you can see how this works. This is all strictly mechanical. So we have a solenoid, basically an electric switch. When you energize this coil, it pulls this lever up to engage the switch on that side, or pulls the lever up to engage the switch on the other side, as you see. You see the switch moving back and forth in there? So it's exactly like a toggle switch. Basically just a rocker switch. You can actually see it much better on this side. So you can actually see the switch moving. So all this actuator is doing is flipping that switch back and forth, as you see. Just exactly the same as the toggle switch does. So when these fail, there's only 2 reasons for them to fail. Either the solenoid has stopped working and is no longer actuating the switch, or the switch has stopped working from being covered with oxide. It's really straightforward. It's really simple. And all of this is controlled by this solenoid. So when you turn the power on, the engine is running forward and that stays energized all the time the motor is running. You shut the power off, it goes to neutral. Energize it again, and it goes the opposite direction if it cycles correctly, as you see. So also, this coil is drawing as much power as the light bulb is. So when you bypass the E unit, you're actually supplying a lot more energy to the motor itself. It's not going through the E unit. It's not being affected by the contacts in the E unit, and it's not being affected by the loss of power going to that coil. So if you bypass the E unit, you gain about 10% additional power to the motor. Now this is really simple, and it's wired virtually identical to that toggle switch. So what you're doing basically is reversing polarity on these 2 wires. So the contacts in here are doing it just like the toggle switch does. Exactly the same principle, except in this case the switch is being powered rather than by a toggle, by this lever moving up and down on either side of the switch. And that's all it's doing. Forward, reverse, forward, reverse. And again, as long as the motor is energized, so is this coil. You can hear it. So it takes a substantial amount of power to energize that coil and to keep it energized all the time the motor is running. So like I said, when these go out, it is a lot easier to bypass it than it is to try to repair it. This is completely captured by the side plates. So you can't get to it, and even if you take it apart, you still cannot get to the contacts. It's completely sealed unless you now want to completely disassemble the E unit itself. In my opinion, it's just not worth it. First, to buy one, it costs more than the locomotives I'm buying. Secondly, it is a lot of work. You have to completely gut the motor. You have to pull the wheels, split the case, remove the old E unit, install the new E unit, solder it all, reassemble the motor, and then hope that it works. And as I've tried to point out, being the same age as the one you've replaced, how long is it going to work? You have no idea at all. So when I encounter an E unit that is not working correctly, I just simply bypass it. And now if you want to, you can of course install a toggle switch, which will do exactly the same thing that this actuator lever is doing. You can actually see it flipping that switch back and forth. Exactly the same as the toggle. So anyway, just wanted to do a quick video on how these E units work. And I've just got it wired to the track with one of the magnetic lock-ons. So it's really simple in its basic construction, but when it goes out, it's a nightmare to get to, and then another nightmare to fix it. And to replace it costs more than the locomotive that I buy. So most of these locomotives are 10 bucks, 12 bucks. I occasionally get one for $6. I usually won't pay more than $20 for anything. But to buy a $10 locomotive and then spend another 10, 12, 15, 20 to replace the E-unit, and then all the work entailed to replace the E-unit with no guarantee that it's going to work once it's back together, it's just easier, faster, and a lot cheaper to bypass it, which is what I do. And of course, now you have the option of installing a switch. A toggle switch will do exactly the same thing as the E-unit does, or you can simply bypass it and just let the locomotive run forward. I mean, in all honesty, how often do you run a Marx locomotive backwards? Not very often. Anyway, I just want to do a quick video on how these E-units work. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a actuator actually flipping a switch, as you see. And that's all it is a solenoid operated switch, exactly like the double pole, double throw toggle switch. Exactly the same, just being actuated by this lever attached to a solenoid. Anyway, I just want to do a quick video on this. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.